everyone back again. So I came across a video on Facebook about that Florida funeral procession dude that pretends to be a cop. And it was posted by a funeral director. And she's like, no, under Florida law, funeral processions don't have to abide by any traffic control device ever. They don't have to pay attention to red lights, yield signs, stop signs. They don't have to do any of that. They can just enter traffic control, enter traffic at any point, and you have to give them the right of way. No. One, she's a fucking idiot. So there's that. I gotta figure out where the hell this was again. Public transportation. No. Let's see. Business, military, taxation, county. Man, I was just looking at it on my phone. Motor vehicles. Motor vehicles. State Uniform Traffic Code 316. Now, she quotes, was it 1974? 1974, I think it was. Yeah, 1974. Funeral procession, right of way, and liability. She points out that this is the part where she was highlighting. What is it? 3A and 3B. Funeral procession, right of way, funeral escort vehicles, funeral lead vehicles. Regardless of any traffic control device or right of way provisions prescribed by state or local ordinance. Pedestrians and operators of all vehicles, except as stated in paragraph C, shall yield right of way, follow through the intersection to any vehicles which part of the funeral procession led by a funeral escort vehicle or funeral lead vehicle. Regardless of any traffic control device or right of way provision prescribed by the state or local ordinance, shall yield right of way to any vehicle which is part of the funeral procession being led by a funeral escort vehicle or funeral lead vehicle. Now, you get to B. When the funeral lead vehicle lawfully enters an intersection. This is where this dumb bimbo misses entirely. 3A says that anybody that's in the procession has right of way while in the intersection. You must leave them alone. But 3B, the controlling subset of this law, says that the lead vehicle must lawfully enter the intersection for it to be, applied. Now, when the funeral lead vehicle lawfully enters the intersection, either by reason of traffic control devices or direction of law enforcement personnel, the remaining vehicles in the funeral procession may follow through the intersection regardless of traffic control devices. This means that if a funeral comes up to a red light, they must stop and wait for it to turn green. Once it turns green, then no vehicle in that procession has to stop until the They're all the way through. It's plain as day. Right there. Plain as day. But this idiot says, no. They don't have to pay attention to stop signs, yield signs, train signs. Trains just have to stop for them. Yeah. She is completely skipping over the entire subset of this law to highlight only one section while ignoring the section that tells them that they're wrong. Right there. 316, 1974, funeral procession right-of-way and liability, subsection 3, paragraph A and B. I rest my case. It's right there. It's right there. I mean, A and B right there. Right there. And you know what? Just for shits and giggles, let's see if this will zoom in properly for me. Yeah. Let's do this so that you guys can read it. Funeral procession right-of-way, funeral escort vehicles, funeral lead vehicles, regardless of any traffic control device, right-of-way provision prescribed by state or local ordinance, pedestrians and operators of all vehicles, except as stated in paragraph C, shall yield the right-of-way to any vehicle which is part of a funeral procession being led by a funeral escort vehicle or funeral lead vehicle. When the funeral lead vehicle lawfully enters an intersection. In order for this to be factual, this must be abided by. This is the law. This is what follows. I know that they put these in, opposite each other, but this law makes this one. This is the law. This is how it's played out. You can't just, run a red light. Like the video itself is of a man with a dash cam pulling into an intersection and a funeral procession. Like he's got the green light. The funeral procession is led by one of these buffoons for that company that everybody knows about. And that guy cuts him off, jumps out of his vehicle, and starts punching his hood and yelling and screaming at him and telling him to stop. No. You did not enter lawfully. You ran a red light. As a lead vehicle, you ran a red light. This company is known for doing this. They cause accidents. They ram people with their vehicles. They punch windows. They break mirrors. They threaten to tase people. They pull out pepper spray and pepper spray people on bikes. This company had its license pulled before. I mean, it's insane that nobody follows this. And then it's like, okay, but what about the part where it talks about the laws and such? Well, yeah, you go back to the laws, and it was. What is it? 316.123, right of way, entering or stopping, yield instructions. This law, in order for them to enter legally, they have to follow this law. Then you have, what was it? 047 something. 0074. Obedience to and required traffic control devices. They have to abide by that. Yeah, they have to abide by that. Then you got 745. They've got uniform signal devices. 745. 74. Yeah, 74 and 745, and then 775 traffic control signal devices, flashing signals. Yeah, there are laws that they must abide by in order for them to be able to do the funeral procession. I mean, it's right there, people. It really is. It is not that hard. It's not that hard to go, oh, there's more to this law other than that part that I have read. And then you go down even further to when a funeral lead vehicle enters the intersection right away prescribed by law, when they do that, funeral procession shall have right of way at the intersection regardless of the traffic control device, subject to the following conditions. And police vehicles and emergency vehicles and everybody in the procession has to be careful. But again, they must abide by the traffic control devices first. And then once the first vehicle has entered the intersection after obeying the traffic laws, everyone after is allowed to ignore the traffic control devices until the procession is through. You don't just get to run the lights. You don't get to just go in and just say, no, screw this, screw the laws, screw traffic laws. When the funeral lead vehicle lawfully enters an intersection, it's right there. I mean, it's crazy. The liabilities, except for negligence. Yeah, I mean, there's this entire law says that once the funeral procession has legally entered an intersection, no one can stop them except for emergency vehicles. But the funeral directors and funeral personnel and these escort companies say, once we're in a funeral procession, we are more powerful than the president. And it's not true. They literally ignore this entire section here. They literally ignore this entire section. They ignore section 3A, B, and C. The entire section 3, they just ignore that completely. And it's so sad. It really is. It makes them look stupid. It makes them look stupid because the law is right there. It is. And that one, Dickface McGee, he's been arrested for doing this. And the courts have actively said, no, you don't get to ignore traffic lights and signals and signs until you've already entered the intersection. You pull up, it is a red light. You stop. Once you get the green, you pull into the intersection. The procession has entered lawfully. Now the whole procession can go, regardless of the lights changing. The whole procession can go then. That's how the law is written. That is how it is prescribed. And yet that is how they ignore it. That is the entire part that they ignore. Just, what? Screw section 3, A, B, and C. We're just going to pretend that doesn't exist. And it's sad that people are running funerals out in Florida and they don't even notice that they're breaking this law. That's my rant for today.